Hey, boo! Welcome to the very first podcast episode of the brand new year, 2026. My name is Brandon Foster. I am the author of Confident AF, Unleash Your Inner Badass, and I am here to help you create internal certainty, unshakable faith, and radical self-trust to help you grow and scale your business fearlessly going into what gets to be the best year you've ever had inside of your business. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 secret ingredients to unrealistic results inside of your business. This is something that I started really teaching my mastermind at the end of 2025, and it was really one of those pieces that I was thinking to myself about what actually are the biggest ingredients to growing and scaling a business fearlessly. Because one ingredient can really ruin a recipe for success. I love making a chocolate pie around the holidays. King Arthur Flour, in my opinion, has the absolute best chocolate pie recipe known to man, and it's pretty easy to duplicate, but it does ask when you're creating the chocolate filling to have just a little bit of salt and put in just a little bit of salt in there. And man, if you put too much salt in there, you ruin the whole entire chocolate pie recipe, right? And so when we talk about building and growing a business, I believe that there are 5 secret ingredients that really matter to entrepreneurship to create what I like to say is the unrealistic that God can do inside of your business. If you're new here, you know that we are not about smart goals. We are not about realistic goals. And the reason why I'm not a big proponent of smart goals or realistic goals is because God's love is unrealistic. And most of the time people set their goals based on what they feel is safe or realistic because they're afraid of failure, because they are afraid of being embarrassed. They're afraid their desires are too big. And instead, I encourage you all to set those unrealistic goals where the key word, if anything was possible inside of your business, what would you actually want to create in this brand new year? And so when I discovered these 5 secret ingredients, nothing is really completely new inside of business at this point in age, but it was really came from this idea that there's so much focus right now in every single industry about ChatGPT and AI and strategy and what the right strategy is for you right now. And one thing that I've learned from building 2 businesses is that there are literally thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of different strategies to grow and scale your business. So strategy is really, really important, but so many people put so much focus on the strategy being the key differentiating or factor when I believe it is one of the key ingredients of the 5, but it is not the most important. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to completely dispel a lot of backwards thinking that a lot of people have in entrepreneurship, and I'm going to share with you how to think about strategy and what is actually more important than strategy. And we're going to work way backwards from the first ingredient. Actually, we're going to work from the last ingredient to the actual first and most important ingredient inside of your business. Okay? So the last ingredient that everybody focuses on, like I said, is strategy. Strategy is really important in building your business because strategy is what are you actually going to do? What is the action that you're actually going to take in building your business? For my businesses, that involves YouTube, that involves podcasts, that involves a Facebook group, that involves paid advertising. So I definitely believe in strategy. Strategy definitely matters. It's how we're going to get from point A to point B. That is one ingredient. However, here's what a lot of people fail to realize about strategy is they're so focused on copycatting other people's strategies and looking over everybody else in their industry and what they're doing strategy-wise, they never stop to ask themselves, is this actually the best strategy for me? Is this the best way to take my business where I want my business to go? Is this what I want to be spending my time doing to grow my business? Because if there's 100,000 different strategies, then it also comes to fruition and is true that not every strategy is going to be right for you right now, right here, going to take you where you want to go inside of your business. And so what happens if people are copycatting other people's strategies, or they're always looking at, it's like in high school when you look at someone else's test paper and you're just duplicating what other people do. If you don't know why you're using that strategy and how that strategy is good for you, your skill set, who God created you to be, the business you want to create, the people you want to serve, you could very well be using the wrong strategy. So strategy is ingredient number 5. But what's more important than strategy is going to be ingredient number 4. Ingredient number 4 is clarity. Clarity is, where do I want to take my business this year? Where is my business currently? More importantly than just that, what am I believing about my business this year? What am I believing about myself, about my clients, about my team? What am I believing is possible for me? What do I not believe is possible for me? Because that needs to shift. That needs to be rearranged. What do I believe is true? What I believe is not true? Why do I want to create those new results inside of my business? Clarity is incredibly, incredibly important. And it is way, way, way more important than strategy. Because if you don't have clarity, like I said, you're going to choose wrong strategy, wrong time, wrong way, wrong for you, wrong for your business, wrong for where you want to go. But if you have clarity, you're going to choose right strategy, right for you, right for your team, right here, right now, right where you want to go. So clarity is worth way more than strategy is. Now, ingredient number 3 is knowing how to ask questions. Because the best clarity in your business always come from asking the best questions. I believe it was Dr. John Martini who either said, the quality of your life is dependent upon the quality of your thinking. And I believe that the quality of your thinking depends on the quality of your questions, and also the second ingredient. And that is because when you have better questions, you get better answers. And a lot of people, when they decide to grow and build a business, they're not asking very good questions. It's no different than everybody flocking to use ChatGPT or AI. You're not going to get a very good output if you don't have a very good and intentional input. So the better questions you ask about your business, the better answers you're going to get, the better clarity you have, and the better strategy you're going to have to help you get there. So when it comes to questions, things that I always like to ask people is, what is the easiest solution? What is the best solution? What is right for you? What is your heart leading you to? I mean, just asking what is the quickest, easiest, best, simplest, biggest return on investment, least amount of effort with the best results. I mean, just changing adjectives and asking different questions will always give you better responses inside of your business all the livelong day. So that is ingredient number 3. Are you guys tracking this so far? Strategy matters, but if you don't have clarity, you're not going to get the right strategy, right for you, right where you want to go, right when you're creating your business. But you can't get clarity unless you're asking really great questions. Now this brings me to ingredient number 4. Ingredient number 4 is faith. The higher level of faith you have, the better questions you are going to ask. I did a reel where I explained my dinner plate method. And, excuse me, the dinner plate method is very simple. It is, if someone comes over to your house and says, hey, I want to invite my friends over for dinner, the first question you're going to ask that person is, cool, how many people are coming over for dinner? Now, if they say, I have 4 friends coming over for dinner, you might say, cool. So 4 friends, you, me, that's 6 total. Let's just order a couple large pizzas, one and done, taken care of, no big deal. But if they say, I'm going to have 100 people coming over for dinner, or I'm going to have 1,000 people coming over for dinner, that question gives you a different answer, and the answer leads to higher level of questions that lead you to your responses, right? So the way this works in entrepreneurship is, what is your goal? Is your goal $1 million in revenue? Is your goal $1 million in profit? Is your goal $1 million in sales? Because all three of those could be completely different. If you're talking travel industry, $1 million in sales is actually around $100,000 in revenue, and profit is going to be determined based on what your expenses are, right? So the reason why the dinner plate analogy matters is because oftentimes when people are building their business, they don't have a high level of faith that they could have in themselves. And what's so interesting about this is, one thing I love doing for people that I work with is I challenge their faith. So if I have someone who is already at $10 million in sales or $1 million in sales, I'm automatically going to start to instill in them questions of 10 timing that, 20 timing that, whatever it is, because I know that that's going to start leading them toward expansion as opposed to contraction inside of their business. And so the dinner plate analogy is incredibly important, because when you have a higher level of faith, you're not going to ask in your business, how can I feed 6 people over for dinner? You're going to start asking questions of, how can I feed 600? How can I feed 6,000? How can I serve 600? How can I serve 6,000? And one of the things that I love that Dr. John Ramkey said in one of his videos or books, I can't remember which, is that if you want to impact your family, have a mission that is meant to impact your city. If you want to impact your city, have a mission to impact your state. If you want to impact your state, have a mission to impact your country. So the building a business is very similar in that regard, that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are not growing as fastly, quickly, easily as they could, because they don't know the dinner plate analogy. They have a low level of faith, or a lower level of faith than they could have. And when you have a higher level of faith, you ask a higher level of questions. Higher level of questions give you a higher level of clarity. Higher level of clarity gives you a higher level of strategy to help you grow and build your business, which is really, really, really important, because I'm someone who doesn't believe in recreating the wheel. I had an incredible young woman who joined my mastermind last year. Her name's Rachel. Hi, Rachel, if you're listening to this. And one of the things she confided in me is that, I really want to have a big agency. And I said, well, what does that mean for you? Do you want 25? You want 30 people? She goes, I know it sounds crazy. I'd really like to have over 100 different travel agents in my business. And I said, great. If that's what it is, then all of our work has to be with 100 or more, 100 or more, 100 or more, 100 or more agents. So as she was architecting, building the structure of her agency and onboarding people and creating SOPs and everything else, I kept telling her, every question you ask has to be around, will this work for 100 or more? Is this built for 100 or more? Is this sustainable for 100 more? Everything you do has to be through that lens. And it's the same way that people build skyscrapers or build any kind of building. The foundation is going to be based on how high the building they're going to build. And it's crazy, because I see so many business owners and entrepreneurs who are not building a foundation to grow the business that they actually want to grow and create. And so if you start with higher level faith, you get higher level questions, higher level questions, higher level clarity, higher level clarity, higher level strategy. Now this brings me to ingredient number 5, which is the actual most important ingredient. And this is something that God continues to teach me more about, and I'm really excited to understand this more in my own personal life and in my own business moving into 2026. And that is just really understanding God's unconditional love. Because if you think about what is required in order for you to ask questions of higher level faith, you have to have a higher level of belief in God's unconditional love for you. And when I say God's unconditional love for you, we're talking about understanding how much He loves to help you, how much He loves to exceed your expectations, how beautiful of a job He did in creating you. God doesn't create poo-poo, okay? So He didn't mess up when He created you. He didn't make a mistake when He gave you the desires in your heart. So a really big piece of faith is knowing and understanding God's love. Because the more you know and understand God's love for you, who He created you to be, His support of you, the safety in walking out in faith, the easier it is to build a business, you know? Because God's love casts out fear. And the biggest reason why so many people do not grow and scale and build a business they want is because they're afraid. They're afraid of what people think. They're afraid to dream too big. They're afraid to take action. They're afraid to step outside their comfort zone. And a lot of it is just your nervous system is dysregulated, and we don't even realize it, but we crave safety. And unfortunately, oftentimes our nervous system tricks us into believing that staying where we are because it's comfortable and we're used to it means that we're safe. And that's not actually true. And so the most important ingredient of the 5 is going to be understanding God's unconditional love for you and your business. Because the more you understand that, the higher level of faith you're going to have to ask Him for more help, ask Him for wisdom, to think bigger, to dream bigger, to serve more, to have a higher level impact. That higher level of faith will lead to higher level of questions. Higher level of questions leads to higher level of clarity. Higher level of clarity leads to the best strategy, right for you, right time, right place, right now. I love you all so much. If you are not part of the Confident AF community on Facebook, make sure you join that. If you don't have a copy of my book, Confident AF, Unleash Your Inner Badass, you should totally get one on Amazon, boo. I love you so much. Next week's podcast episode is going to be really amazing. We're going to talk about 5 quotes that completely changed my life and my business. Stay tuned for next week.